Welcome to the February 6th edition of the PFF Forecast. This is the last split remote podcast that Eric and I are doing because my guy is looking LA ready over there. He's ready to come out here to the West Coast, and we'll be live from Radio Row at the Super Bowl next week. But we're going to get this Sunday show and Super Bowl week off to a great start because we're going to talk about a little bit of the Burrow IQ talk, which if you haven't heard about, we're going to fill you in on. We'll talk a little bit about the new hire of Kevin O'Connell, who's the offensive coordinator, obviously for the Rams. This is integral to this Super Bowl, and we'll be going to Minnesota next year. And then we've got more Super Bowl props, including MVP props for the Super Bowl. Let's rock. You said you were LA ready, Eric, and I just want to let you know that it's gonna be a heater out here. Like there's a little heat wave coming, so you can put the ice, the snow boots away. No need for jackets, shorts, tank tops. Prepare yourself.
So here's a fun story. So so today is my daughter's 9th birthday. Yesterday we had a party for her at the house.
Congrats.
So then my youngest daughter plays basketball and I'm like the assistant coach, whatever. But my wife had to get all the party stuff ready. So she's like, you have to coach this game. So I get in the car and it takes me 20 minutes to scrape the ice off because like by the time I got back from Kansas City, I'm like, I'm just staying at home. And like, I gotta be honest with you, not to sound too provincial, but like Ohio is terrible at this relative to like Minnesota. I'm assuming Atlanta is terrible at this relative to Ohio. But anyway, so I finally get there, I show up, and like, God bless this other parent who also didn't read the schedule. But the game is today at 2 instead of yesterday at 2. So I don't have to actually make my head coaching debut. But I was like panicked and like, I was like, I still gotta get my hair cut for this week. I gotta buy some clothes and like, So like it's been kind of a whirlwind over the last.
You did
day.
get
Plus,
a little haircut.
We had like 8 little girls in my house for my daughter's birthday party.
I got excited for a second because I really I know everyone here wanted to hear your like coaching stories. I was like, I got really excited about that, and then you let me down. So I need those on the Tuesday show. You have to promise that you bring. So can I just ask this? What kind of a coach, when you like envision yourself on the sideline, compare yourself to a basketball coach?
I will not disappoint with the story though. So once Chloe and I got there and realized she didn't have a game, I texted my wife. I was like, hey, where's Madeline's game? Because that's like why we had to split up, because they were at the same time.
Yeah.
And so
Madeline's your younger daughter. Yeah.
Madeline's my older daughter, and she had the other game. So then I beeline there. I get there and it's like my wife's like, hey, Madeline is 8 points so far, which the game was like 12-6. So I'm like, oh, nice. So then, I get there at halftime, I sit there, and this other team's coach, like mind you, this is 3rd grade basketball. The other coach is jumping up and down, yelling at the refs, like getting like, and I'm just like, it is not that serious, bro. Like my wife like looked at me, she's like, that's what you're gonna be like. I'm like, no, like I don't even get that way I don't get that way ever. And I'm like, so, unless the Rams make it, go all in on something, I don't get really all that worked up at all. And so I was like, no, I'm gonna be like more of like a Dungy, like a Leslie Frazier type than Mike Tomlin, than anything, remotely close to like the hot, the heated guy on the sideline.
I love coaching, by the way. I've coached a few different like levels. When I did Teach for America, I was teaching 7th and 8th grade math in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and they did not have a basketball team there, which was actually kind of surprising. But like that kind of tells you, I guess, kind of the level of disarray that some of these places are in. And myself and the PE coach started a basketball program there. And we were excited because we thought, oh, I'm sure like there's a lot of kids who, play basketball for fun because, like that's what we did when we were kids. And like, this should be a great opportunity. And one of the funniest things about it was the number of kids who came in who were like really excited to play, but their experience playing basketball was literally video games and like didn't know how to dribble a basketball. And so the funniest thing was that in preparing for this, I went full like Steve Kerr before he coached the Warriors, which was like, okay, let's get together. Let's talk about like our offensive scheme. How, what is our defense going to look like? What kind of team are we going to be? Showed up day one and it's like, okay, so how do you dribble the ball? And so that's the kind of coach that I think I am. I'm actually relatively calm on the sideline compared to how I am in real life. But I want a coach's cam of you today so that we can share it with.
I will only be the assistant today.
Oh, only the assistant today. Okay.
Because we don't have the conflict. So Steph is going to be coaching. I got to say that like, I am the, hey, Steph, so-and-so needs a break.
Oh,
hey,
you're that guy.
I'm more like a high-fiving everybody as they come out. I'm yelling, and because you can't press in second grade. So I'm also get back guy.
Good.
So like I'm very, and also like telling fans to stop yelling at the ref because it's
that's what I really need. Okay, before we get into the Burrow stuff. Reminder that if you are preparing for the Super Bowl, the best way to prepare for the Super Bowl is with a PFF subscription. New on PFF.com we always do this. We did this last year. We have a beefed up player props tool for the Super Bowl. Anytime touchdowns, we're adding new props every single day. So you can go find that on PFF.com and you get 25% off with promo code Forecast, FORECAST, 25% off. So go to PFF.com right now. It's an elite subscription. It gets you all of PFF's premium content, you get it for a year. You get all of that going through next football season, all the fantasy tools that you need to dominate, all the great betting tools, betting dashboard, NFL Greenline, and the player props tool, plus the best bets tool, which if you're just looking for like the quickest way to find a good bet, it's right there for you. New on PFF.com right now is the NFL draft guide. That's coming up. So a ton of great stuff for you to take advantage of. It's a great time to buy a subscription and get 25% off. Also, let us know what sorts of things you love about PFF and what you'd like to see from PFF by emailing us at contact@pff.com, and we'll put your requests on our 2022-2023 wish list. Okay. Set the table for me here because you alerted me to this earlier this weekend. I think it's really interesting. Give the context for the listeners around this kind of a lot of Burrow talk, and rightfully so, about how great he's been over the course of the year. He's been the highest graded quarterback in the NFL. But there's some interesting context here. So why don't you set the table for us?
There's a tweet by Matt Lombardo, NFL, says, and it was in response to the video where Mahomes appeared to, and I was right there. I saw it happen. Mahomes convincing Andy Reid to go for fourth down. It wasn't even a fourth down. It was second down with 5 seconds left at the Bengals 1 up 11, getting the ball to start the second half. I think that context is actually important. And Andy letting him do it, Pat, kind of throwing the ball. Keeping the, like, let's just be honest, like they messed up the play. Like he threw Tyreek Hill turned around on the wrong shoulder. Mahomes probably threw it a little bit. He didn't lead him into the end zone, all that kind of stuff. But, Eli Apple also made a great play, and the Bengals stopped them at the 1 yard line and they go off. And, ultimately that was probably one of the differences between them and winning and not. And Matt Lombardo says, this is what I believe will ultimately separate Joe Burrow from Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is otherworldly gifted, but Burrow has the acumen we haven't seen since Brady, and plays the game at a cerebral A level. In playoffs where mistakes are magnified, can be a difference maker. And I gotta say, that is the most garbage take. And I'm not even trying to cape for Mahomes or diss Burrow. I think it's possible for all this stuff to happen and us praise Joe Burrow, praise Matthew Stafford, praise, players who have made it this far, Brady, praise Brady as he retires. and not kind of go through this tropey BS of like being like, this is where Mahomes comes short. I mean, the guy has hosted 4 straight AFC Championship games, won 2 of them and lost 2 of them in overtime. Like, can we not do this? Like, I don't. Nope. It just makes me so mad.
So it's interesting. I like bringing in parallels to other sports, and I think this is one that that works really, really well. I'm not going to go with the Jordan comparison because I think that's a little bit different, but this reminds me a bit of some of the LeBron stuff, where LeBron is so good and it does so many things well and dominates the game in a way, like really since, like you think about Jordan, Wilt, like I think maybe you put Steph in there, given what he's done for this generation of basketball. Maybe people get mad about that, but where you find nits to pick. And I think that we should focus. I would rather focus on the let's not throw Mahomes out with, with that one play, as opposed to like the Burrow thing, because I think it's unfair to Burrow. And Robbie Greer pointed this out, does some great work on Twitter and writes for PFF as well, pointed this out, where it's like there's really no data that supports like Joe Burrow being otherworldly smart in the way that Brady is, where Brady doesn't take sacks, and like Burrow, like his pocket presence, he took more sacks this year than anyone else. And I know that the offensive line obviously wasn't great, but like Brady has dealt with bad offensive lines as well. So the thing that bothers me most about it, though, is like that we're trying to say that play was failed because of a mental error, like a lack of football acumen on Patrick Mahomes' part. That's bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, that's such garbage. And so I want to ask you this question. If we were ranking quarterbacks based on their, like, I don't know what you want to call it, football acumen, or like sense of the moment, or like this guy, let's say, maybe here's the right way to frame it. If you didn't have an offensive coordinator or a head coach, like which quarterback do you want being that, replacing that? Like, I mean, how would you rank them? I have a strong feeling.
Because here's my thing. Like, this is, and again, this shows you how much things can turn. So Sunday morning, literally the hours before that game, I was on Seren Petro's, they do the pregame show, the official pregame show, the Chiefs, whatever. And I said, like, what's crazy about Mahomes is that the league is forcing him to behave like Brady, right? Which is distribute the ball, be content, getting the underneath stuff, and all that, which is what basically Brady's superpower, was being content at being the best freaking player in league history at doing that, right? Which is like, just limit mistakes, all this kind of stuff. Like, Brady was so amazing at that, and like took what the defense gave him. And then near the end of his career, all this stuff that people poo-pooed him about, which was his arm strength and all that, like we saw he still had it. He made the throw to Mike Evans, to cut the lead to 7 at the end of the divisional round. And I sort of mentioned, I'm like, that's the thing that Pat has to learn to be great, but he's kind of doing that. He was doing that in the Pittsburgh game. He did that in the Buffalo game surgically. No passes over 20 yards in the air in that game. And he did that in the first half too. And like, obviously it fell all apart. And now, we're back to questioning whether or not he can be patient enough to do all these things. But football is such a random game. But to answer your question, I mean, I always thought Drew Brees had that acumen to him. I think Mahomes,
obviously Brady, right?
Yeah, Brady. Manning was obviously somebody in that category. I think Russell Wilson's instincts are very good, and I think the hard part about Wilson is that I think his instincts are really good. And it's just like, we're probably going to find out when he goes to a new team how much he's been hamstrung by the play calling that he's had in Seattle. And I think Mahomes is there too. Like, I don't understand. Like, people are looking at that specific play, and it's like, gee, yeah, if Mahomes knew the outcome before the play, maybe he wouldn't have done it. But like, does anybody disagree with that call?
Right. And I mean, that's kind of the point, is like, the execution was poor. And I mean, that happens. What I think is absurd is part of the reason that play is being magnified is because they melted down in the second half. Like, let's talk about the meltdown in the second half. Let's not talk about that play. I think that's the thing that is more concerning. And if you want to argue Burrow Mahomes, then you should argue it based on the second half. But that's the thing that's glaring. Now, I thought this was really interesting. So what I looked at is last 4 years, less than 5 minutes to go in either the second or fourth quarters in a one-score game. And I think this is really interesting. The among players with over 300 passing snaps, highest graded Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, and then Matthew Stafford. Now, if you lessen the number of snaps and you say, okay, anyone with over 100 passing snaps, Joe Burrow actually is the highest graded. He and Mahomes are. And I do think that's indicative of the season that Burrow has had. What I will point out there, though, is that sample size matters, right? And I think that's why picking one play and boiling it down to that is really not great. And even thinking about it just in one season, I think is a little unfair there. And so I think those are the things to keep in mind. I'll also point this out, which is we talked about sacks here. In these situations, so Patrick Mahomes has 475 dropbacks, has been sacked 24 times. Joe Burrow, 181 dropbacks, has been sacked 16 times. So that's one of the crucial differences, I think, between Mahomes and Burrow. And part of it, I think, is a little bit of athleticism, but that to me is the separator. That's why I still, as great as Joe Burrow is, I think it's ridiculous to be like, oh yeah, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the same, awareness or acumen in these moments, because the dude is as good at avoiding, negative plays and making big plays in those situations as anyone.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And this was his worst year for sure. And I think I think where I was wrong about the Rams was they went all in a year where maybe they were able to identify more quickly than any of us that there wasn't a great team in the NFL, maybe other than Buffalo and Green Bay. And so this was a year where he wasn't great, and it is a longer grind for them. But make no mistake, I mean, that was what was so perplexing about the second half, was that Mahomes just scored at will against the number one overall defense in the NFL in Buffalo, and then kind of a middle of the pack unit completely flummoxed him in the second half of that game. So it's just, and then the whole and again, we don't want to get and I don't actually think that the tweet itself was nefarious at all, but we gotta stop with the whole white quarterback cerebral, black quarterback physically. We got to stop that shit. We can't do that shit anymore. We can't like I said, it's not about me, or it's not about you. It's about thinking about how that looks to people who aren't who black people. Frankly, if you want to be a quarterback and every single subliminal thing tells you have to be an athlete, you can't be of the cerebral ilk, that's part of what we were talking about on Wednesday, which was just we have to stop these things that subliminally exclude people. And to me, I think, again, I don't know if any one instance is somebody doing that on purpose or just perpetuating what they've learned in media. So I'm not trying to single this person out, but it's something that we got to stop doing. We have, and draft season's coming up, and
it's my favorite. Can't wait. Yeah, I'm so excited for the Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett comparisons. They're going to be great.
We both read The Undoing Project, where Daryl Morey and his scouts, you can't label a person by body type and that kind of thing. And that's important. I mean, that's where we have biases. And look, I as a Chiefs fan, I hope Mahomes takes this as a slight and blowtorches the league next year. But for just for our ability to analyze the game anyway, Like we got to stop that. We got
You
to
never
stop.
apologized to Chiefs fans this year, to Chiefs Kingdom, and
I never did. I know.
I'm a little sad about that. So I'll close this.
Didn't make it that far.
I'll close this loop a little bit by looking at that same context just for this year. So again, that's less than 5 minutes to go, second or fourth quarter, 1-score game. And highest graded players with over 100 dropbacks. Brady is 1. You've got Burrow and Allen right there at 2 and 3. Players that don't have over 100, Stafford and Rodgers would be 4 and 5. And then you've got like this group well below with grades in the like low 80s, high 70s of Prescott, Kyler Murray, even Kirk Cousins. Patrick Mahomes, 65 PFF grade in these situations. However, I want to point this out. Like the reason that Joe Burrow is fantastic. The thing that's really interesting and stands out here. So Tom Brady, highest graded, has 4 sacks. Josh Allen took 2 sacks. The only player with double-digit sacks in these situations is Joe Burrow. So like, I'm not sitting here like trying to like dissuade that, that he's good in these situations, but I don't think it's fair to say that he has some big up on the league in these situations yet. If I were betting on who's going to be that guy, going forward, I think it's great to put Joe Burrow in that conversation. But Josh Allen has been really good. And let's just take a step back for a second. The Chiefs melted down in the second half. But let's not forget the Buffalo Bills game, where I think it's fair to say that Mahomes had decent football awareness. They scored in 13 freaking seconds.
And they got in field goal range in 30 seconds at the end of the first half. Like that was the whole thing, when the Bengals scored that Samaje Perine touchdown, and like we're all looking like we're like, oh, 56 seconds. This is a cakewalk for Mahomes. Mm-hmm. And he gets all the way down to the 1-yard line in that amount of time. And again, like it's hard not to be prisoners in the moment. And it's hard not to be romantic about football, right? It's hard not to look at Joe Burrow and think, I remember thinking, I think I said this to you when I watched him at LSU in 18. I'm like, this is an AAF quarterback, right? Like he was just him and John Wolford were like the same guy to me, right? And then 2019, he blowtorches the whole college football, right? By the way, that LSU team went from giving Clemson no chance in the college football playoff to 2 years later grinding out the last bowl game, like a 20-point loss to Kansas State. Yeah. Right? Like the guy just Joe Brady goes from being a hot head coaching candidate to being a quarterback's coach. And like it's hard not to look at Joe Burrow and be like, man, this guy's got it, right? And it was hard not to look at Tom Brady and say, this guy's got it. But like we got to be careful. Brady is such a singular figure in the history of the game. And we can't be comparing every swashbuckling, from behind.
But we're going to
guy to Tom Brady.
We're going to. I mean, do you remember when Jordan retired? How many next Jordans were there? Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Kobe Bryant. Like,
by the way, you thinking of Tracy McGrady
Harold
first,
Miner,
and also me thinking of Tracy McGrady first, because that was what everybody. McGrady was. Well,
it was It was a Carter, Vince Carter, and Kobe Bryant had kind of that first like legit, this was on the cover of magazines, which one is the next Jordan, and a lot, because of the fact that they were dunkers, but also, Kobe really patterned his game after Jordan. The funniest one though, Eric, is I believe Harold Miner was dubbed Baby Jordan. I think that was the first. But yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, it's absolutely going to happen because Brady is that Jordan-esque figure. And look, Joe Burrow, like, God, I hope he, I'm rooting for him. I think the world is rooting for him in this game.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that. By the way,
we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to root for Joe Burrow without putting down Patrick Mahomes. Like we have to be able to root for.
Don't make everything about the Chiefs, Eric. Don't make everything about the Chiefs. There's plenty of people out there.
Here's the thing: we have to be able to root for Matthew Stafford without dragging Jared Goff through the mud. Right? Like that's I think where we have to.
Is anyone watching this? Who's the saddest person watching the Super Bowl, and why is it Jared Goff? Let's
Jared Goff is the biggest Eli Apple fan in the history of the world.
Yeah, in the history of the world. By the way, we've got some great content planned for the Super Bowl week. We're going to do a Tuesday show afternoon. We're going to do a Thursday show afternoon. We've got some great guests lined up. Also got some great pieces of content, not just Super Bowl. Obviously, we're going to do a lot of Super Bowl conversation, but there's some other really interesting stuff. I was brainstorming last night on some interesting topics. I've got some ones that I'm really excited about, and they may or may not involve the GOAT Tom Brady, and about him maybe coming back. But we'll save that for next week. Make sure you tune in, check out all that good stuff. Before we move on, we've got a couple more topics here. If you are planning to make it out to Super Bowl or Super Bowl week, make sure it's your cleanest and sexiest appearance this year, and do so with Manscaped. Manscaped.com. Use promo code PFF. Get 20% off plus free shipping. I'm traveling right now. I traveled with my Lawnmower 4.0, and it's been trusty and handy. It travels like a dream. Battery never runs out. Does not like break or turn on when it's in your backpack.
Handy is the wrong word to use, but yeah.
Handy is definitely the wrong word to use. But go get it. It's part of the Performance Package 4.0 at Manscaped. That also comes with their ultra premium body wash, which probably a good thing to travel with if you've ever been at a hotel and tried to use their body wash or shampoo and then felt like your skin was literally about to shrivel up and die. You should probably travel with some good body wash, and Manscaped has you covered. So use promo code PFF and get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. That is what you need to look your best and feel your best in 2022. All right. The last week, it was our last show, we talked about the Harbaugh thing in Minnesota. And of course, as soon as we were finished recording that segment, it was revealed that Kevin O'Connell was going to be the new head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. He, of course, is the offensive coordinator right now for the Los Angeles Rams. What is your opinion of that hire?
I like it. The Harbaugh thing, and actually it just came out that Gaddis, his offense coordinator, he's going to take a lateral move to Miami. And Mike McDonald, who was one of the assistants on the Ravens. Then he spent 1 year on Michigan as the defensive coordinator, is going back to Baltimore as the defensive coordinator. Harbaugh, to me, felt like he had checked out of that place, right? And I think the moves of his coordinators kind of make some sense in that regard as well. And then it looked like he kind of said, I want to go, I deserve a head coaching job in this space. And here's where I'm going to go. And I want to commend the Vikings who, gave Kwesi Adofo-Mensah 4-year deal. Probably going to have to give Harbaugh a lot more, for making a decision that equalizes the incentives for everybody in that building. I'm actually very pleased with what they've done. And I think a lot of fans wanted the sort of sexy name or whatever. But I think Kevin O'Connell has great experience. He was, the offensive coordinator with Washington. He was the quarterback's coach when Kirk Cousins was the quarterback in 2017 there. He's obviously drafted by, he was another, our friend Zach Robinson's on the Rams staff, was drafted by Bill Belichick. Kevin O'Connell was drafted by Bill Belichick in round 3 of his draft. He's been around the league a lot. I like the hire. I think that the Vikings now, for the first time in a while, actually have a plan to rebuild the thing in a meaningful way. And I know the NFC North is going to be bad if Rodgers leaves, but I'm glad that they didn't take that as a sign to just kind of do the potato chips kind of rebuild.
Well, so this is the interesting thing. I thought it was a great hire, and I am, I want to be cautious because we don't know any of these candidates, that well, but I am really bullish on O'Connell. And one of the reasons is obviously the offensive scheme that the Rams has been really successful. I mean, they've been absolutely killing it on play action over the course of McVay's tenure there, but particularly this year. I mean, they've just been incinerating the league. And, that combination of being offensive minded, being a part of a scheme that's been successful, being a younger guy that hopefully is more, open to some of those, those ways of managing a game that are mathematically pointing you in the right direction. And what I mean by that is going for 4th downs and things like that. You don't know that, but you'd hope that that's something that he's interested in, especially if he's going to Minnesota to work with Kwesi, that he's interested in optimizing. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, though, is because of his history with Kirk Cousins, because of the fact that, look, you look at that offense and you go, man, could Kirk Cousins not do? Now, I don't think like from a, leadership standpoint, he's Matt Stafford, but from a ability to like throw the football standpoint, especially down the field off play action, a lot of, there's a lot of good there. Does this point to them keeping Kirk Cousins? Because that was my take immediately. I was like, oh, I think they're going to keep Kirk Cousins.
No,
you don't think so?
I think it's more because like O'Connell was part of the Washington brass. I mean, he overlapped with Cousins for 1 year. But like he was part of the staff that made the choice to go to Alex Smith, right?
Yeah, but you don't know. I mean,
we don't know. We can't necessarily
we don't know. We don't know. But
Yeah.
Here, I know that you not hate. You are definitely pro, like, let's tear this thing down and start over. And I get that. I'm the same way. But let me just give you a couple of things that might point in the other direction. 4-year deal for Kwesi, right? That's not an eternity. Kevin O'Connell has some history both with Kirk Cousins, but also in taking an offensive scheme with some talented players and making them play really, really well. And you look at Minnesota, they don't have the same offensive line, obviously, that the Rams have, but they have talented receivers. Could they use a couple more? Absolutely. They have a quarterback who, say what you want about Kirk Cousins, he's not the worst quarterback in the NFL. Well. Like he has absolutely thrown the ball really, really well and graded really well over the course of the past few seasons in Minnesota. And then I think the key point is what you just mentioned. The NFC North stinks, and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams might be on their way out. So like the path is there to go, we could win this division and win it handily in year one.
I don't disagree with any of that. I think that the biggest issue is the problem with Cousins isn't necessarily Kirk Cousins. It's the situation that they're currently in, right? So here's the thing. If Cousins was on the open market right now, what would his deal be?
I think there's enough quarterback needy teams out there that I'm not sure he's getting 40, but he's getting a good deal. No doubt about it.
Yeah. So like, I think that this thing is, everybody has this thing all wrong, right? Cousins is currently on a 1-year deal that has a $45 million cap hit. This roster, all of the like sort of cap health metrics that have the Vikings basically middle of the pack, even though they're over the salary cap, involve the ability to move money around and get themselves in a decent position, not a great position, but a decent position. A lot of that hinges on Cousins, right? So it's like a catch-22. Like if the Vikings want to build a roster around Cousins, and that's always been the problem. It hasn't been. I mean, the Cousins signing failed in large part because the reason it failed was that Kirk was as good as you could expect him to be in Minnesota, and the roster let him down, as we all foretold, right? And so you need to build the roster up. The problem is there's almost no daylight between, like, Kirk is not going to accept, as one of the best mercenaries in the history of the league, the best finessers in the history of the league, he's not going to accept a pay cut. He's not going to accept a deal that isn't on the order of like 3 years, $100 million. But like, how much does that benefit the Vikings, who, like, they're not $12 million away from being able to build a thing up there? And I know you can renegotiate, right? I know, but all you're doing there, and all they did in 2020 when they renegotiated his deal, is you're putting together another albatross year, right? And by that time, if you're buying him now at the top, you're going to have to be selling him at the bottom in 3 years when his cap hits 55 million, And so again, this is one of those things where we always talk about some players have more utility for other teams than they do for your team. I think Kirk Cousins is great utility for a team like Cleveland, or a team like, that's like maybe a quarterback away, right? Like the Vikings were. And again, that shows sort of the folly of even thinking that way. But to the Vikings, like, you're basically going to have to make a 3-year commitment to him for $35 million APY, just to not have to go for 45 mil this year. And like, I just don't think, again,
such a hater. You're
in
such a hater.
Minnesota, I don't think it like.
Let me not. Okay. So one of the things that we might talk about next week is the ramifications, pun intended, of Los Angeles winning the Super Bowl. One of those is going to be, especially after the Bucs did this, and now the Rams have done this, back-to-back years of going all in with a quarterback. And look, I said this at the beginning of the year. I was like, look, the Rams think that Matthew Stafford is Tom Brady. He's not Tom Brady. Now, he's not Tom Brady, but they're playing in the Super Bowl and they're a 4.5-point favorite. So, they've gotten it done. And they did as to your point, I think they realized the openness of the NFL that, maybe we did not. And one of the things that will happen are teams will look at that model and they will go, why not us? I'm not saying that the Vikings are going to do that. I'm saying I would not rule it out. And we'll say the same thing about Cousins that we said about Stafford, which is he ain't Tom Brady. And I will say about Cousins that he's not Matt Stafford. Like we have definitely talked a lot about Matt Stafford on this podcast, but we should absolutely give him some of his flowers. Like he has played tremendously well against the blitz, maybe better than any other quarterback in the NFL. He's graded super well in that. He's done a great job of taking on that offensive scheme. And you look at Kirk Cousins and you go like, man, like this division sucks. Like it's wide open, especially if Rodgers leaves. Oh, and by the way, the NFC, guess who just left the NFC? The greatest quarterback of all freaking time. Look at the AFC has every good young quarterback. The NFC is a complete disaster. Like the only team we've got to get through is like the freaking Rams or like Trey Lance and the Niners. Like, are you kidding me? So I'm not ruling that out, Eric. I'm not ruling out that O'Connell and Kwesi look at that and go, hey, like, why not us? Like, we're smart. We can figure out how to get players to come in and have that mentality. And if you have that mentality, here's the thing, Eric. Look at Cousins. What is the one thing that he needs to do to prove to people that he's worthwhile? He needs to win. And so if you go to him and you say, look, buddy, this is not about making money. You need to win football games. Here's the plan to win football games. That's not something that Minnesota has ever done with Kirk Cousins before, right?
And I don't mean to ding him, as much maybe as I am, but like the problem is that in his DNA, like he is a guy who just simply does the check down thing because it's like it is one of those where it's like, well, my pass rating dictates my salary type of thing, and like he's sort of Goodhart's law, right? And this isn't a great team. Like, I believe they're 15th in WAR generated last year. Like this isn't, and that's with Cousins playing like top 10 WAR quarterback. Like I think the difference between the Rams and the Bucs, like when the Bucs took a swing at Brady, they had Evans, Godwin. They had a top 3 defense or top 5 defense. Correct me if I'm wrong. The year before in like expected points added, they had Sue, they had Barrett, they had
Carlton Davis,
Paul, they
Levante
had
David. Yeah.
Like the Vikings, and they made 5 day 2 draft picks in the secondary. The Vikings 2020 first round pick, Justin Jefferson's great. Jeff Gladney's in jail. Like 2020, 2019, Garrett Bradbury is terrible. Like they're not a percolating contender. They're such a scorned team.
This is talking about the Vikings is so funny to me. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that the things that you're talking about improving are not beyond the wit of mankind.
Here's a question that I have for you then. What's the difference between the Bears, who I think both of us would believe is not a great team, right?
Mm-hmm.
But explain to me the merits of the Vikings believing this about themselves and the Vikings believing this. Like, what's the difference? Is it just Cousins over Fields?
No, I mean, it's Cousins over Fields. I don't think we should just pretend that Justin Jefferson doesn't exist.
Okay.
Like the Bears supporting cast offensively is a train wreck. Like I am worried about Justin Fields. This is a topic for another day. I think the Eberflus signing is curious. I would
I don't know.
be
Mooney had 1,000 yards this year.
great. Congratulations. Hang a banner.
I mean,
Like Justin Jefferson, Darnell Mooney don't exist on the same planet. And I like
I
Darnell
know,
Mooney.
but like it's not, I
I
I'm
like
just
Darnell
saying
Mooney.
that
Adam Thielen is really good. They have they have more talent offensively, especially at a high level. And I think this is the thing. They don't have the same type of A-list stars that the Rams do. No doubt about it. But they do have some superstars. And I think that is important to keep in mind. And, you think about Daniel Hunter and what he can do, Eric Kendricks, like there are some really good players on that team. Now they don't have the same depth, but that's where I think Kwesi and, what he does can come in. So anyways, we've talked about the Vikings too much. We apologize for anyone out there who was like, oh, great. Eric and George talking about the Vikings. We're going to get into a few draft props here to close this out. Before we do, you're thinking about a place to go make some bets for the Super Bowl. The place to do that is DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. So go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. They're celebrating huge odds boosts for new customers. Use promo code PFF and get 56-1 odds on any team. Just bet $5 to get $280 in free bets if your team wins. It's that freaking simple. And if you're in a place where a sportsbook's not available yet, it's okay. They've got great daily fantasy football contests for you to win huge cash prizes. Plus, all new customers get a free shot at $1 million in total prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code PFF when you make your first deposit and get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. So that's pretty easy. Bet just $5, win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code PFF. You must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania, only new customers, ones that are eligible. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required, one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And I'm not done giving you great deals for the big game. Our friends at Western and Southern Financial, not only do they do a great job of setting you up for financial success, regardless of where you are in your financial journey, but they are making it worth your while to try and set you up for a great big game this coming Sunday. All you have to do is go ask Chris Collinsworth a question by going to westernsouthern.com/feast. There you can ask Chris anything you freaking want, what it's like to be calling a game where your former team is in the Super Bowl and your former team is the freaking Bengals. That would be a very good question. And when you do, you'll be entered to win $2,500 to your favorite restaurant for delivery on February 13th, 2022. That will set you up and your friends for a wonderful big game. So go to westernsouthern.com/feast, ask your question, enter, and then prosper. All right. Some player props. You have bet, you said, now, first off, I should let the people know, if you're not on TikTok, go on TikTok, follow our guy, Eric. You've been on there dropping a prop a day, a prop per day. So take us through, what are some of your favorite ones that you've bet so far?
Well, here are the ones that I put on TikTok. I had Akers under 64.5. FanDuel is where I got that. Rams to take the first time out, minus 115. First play by the Bengals to be a pass play. That one actually, I think if you can still find it, I believe it's on Bet Online. It's plus 105. Bengals, George. And I know like the Bengals have thrown in 80% of their first plays this year. I understand the degeneracy implied by going and looking at that. But anyway.
I think I love that one.
I also have McPherson first kickoff to be a touchback. Captain Jack Andrews, who runs Unabated with Rufus Peabody, did say, and he replied to me on Twitter and said, the Westgate Superbook, the Superbook put it out at minus 110. It's since got bet up to minus 150. I think it's in normal conditions, it should be minus 200. McPherson first kickoff should be a touchback. McPherson and the Bengals kick the ball into the end zone 78% of the time, 78.6 actually. And that's including all the games in cold weather places like Cincinnati, like Cleveland, etc. Baltimore, whatever. The Rams only take out 13% of kicks that go into the end zone and 15.6% of kicks that land in the end zone, not out of it, right? So if you multiply those two together, it's like 66% chance, right? And so I'm sort of like taking, okay, the K ball kind of sucks, but they're going to get a chance to kick with it. And the last 4 years have been returns. I remember you and I were sweating out whether McCole Hardman would take out the kick from Wisnowski a couple of years ago. And then I'm going to take, McPherson playing in a dome instead of playing in Cincinnati or Kansas City or Tennessee. I'm going to say that offsets the probabilities associated with playing in a dome with that ball, with the ball thing. So I'm going to go -150 there. And then one I just bet, and I have not put this on TikTok yet, but I am betting. Longest field goal of the game, under 47.5. Plus or -116. We've all seen Matt Gay kick over the last 2 weeks. It's a priv, as our friend Dave Safar would say. It's really about McPherson, and as great as McPherson has been, only 47% of games this year have involved Evan McPherson making a kick longer than 47.5. I think you're getting a little bit of a value there with him under 47.5 there at -160.
I should let the people know that
the K ball is playing into my handicap there. The one thing I would say about that is again Matt Gay issues, but there also are issues with both of these coaches will kick a long field goal instead of going for it. So that is my worry there, and one of the reasons why it took I sort of. Again, I was betting against the narrative there. But again, I kind of like it. I understand that 52.7% would not imply, making that bet. But I do think there are aspects of the K ball and aspects of kickers tensing up in the Super Bowl and Matt Gay's just inability to kick a long field goal. To me, I think that's why you bet under there.
So I should let the people know the research for the anthem and the halftime show have begun in earnest. We're going on Thursday. We're going to go over all of our favorite props. So don't worry if you haven't bet any yet. We're going to keep doing this each and every day, and we'll make sure we recap all of the ones that we like on Thursday. Let's talk briefly about the MVP because this is a popular one that people like to bet. Obviously, the two quarterbacks are the two favorites here, and if you go, depending on where you go, you'll see a variety of odds here. I'm looking at the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas, and they obviously have a ton of props that they offer. You can go to their Twitter Superbook, I believe is what it's called, and check it out. There's a ton there. Matt Stafford is 6-5. Joe Burrow 5-2, Cooper Kupp 6-1. Those are the three favorites there. Aaron Donald 16-1, Odell Beckham Jr. Jamar Chase is also 16-1. Odell Beckham Jr. is 20-1. As is Cam Akers, interestingly. Joe Mixon 25-1. Von Miller is 50-1. Jalen Ramsey is 80-1. What if you are placing a bet on the Super Bowl MVP? Who are you betting on?
I'm taking Stafford, and I know it pains me because we've doubted that team all year. Yeah. But so here's a few things. A running back has not won the MVP of the Super Bowl since 1998. Terrell Davis. There have been 3 linebackers who have won it since then, and 1 safety that have won it. And the game that you and I went to, Damian Williams made a better case than Patrick Mahomes for not MVP, not valuable, right? But in the sense of who had the most surprising performance in that game. Damian Williams, you could have made a case to be the MVP in that game. They just don't give it to him. And then you even think about, and then there's one, and I'm gonna caveat this before I even say anything with Cooper Kupp is the reason it is this way. But defense is so spread out now. Defense is such a collaborative effort that if a defense plays really well, there's no lock that any defensive player is going to get the MVP, right? I think, we had Von Miller in 2015. 2 years before that, we had Malcolm Smith, right? Who played 12 snaps in that game and got MVP because he had a pick 6. That was the last time a team played a really collective defensive effort, and they gave it to some rando like Dexter Jackson, right?
Yep.
And so, and the Rams are more star heavy. Donald, Miller, Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey, but that's the, last year, the Bucks dominated the Chiefs on defense, but like there wasn't one guy who you could point to and be like, that guy deserves it over everybody. When the Patriots dominated the Rams 3 years ago, you couldn't look at any one player and be like, that guy deserved it. So then they gave it to Edelman in that 1 year, and then they gave it to Brady last year. So obviously the difference here, where you're looking at a team that's minus 200, but that's a 66%, essentially break even probability. You look at Stafford at plus 120, which is about a 45% break even. That daylight is Cooper Kupp, is it not?
Yes and no. So that I agree with you on Stafford, but I'll give you one here that I think makes sense, which is Aaron Donald at 16-1. And the reasons are, we've talked about this already. And this is the simple fact that perhaps the biggest mismatch that we have seen in the entirety of the playoffs thus far is Aaron Donald versus the interior offensive line, actually against anyone on the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. Their right guard is the 81st out of 82 graded right guards. It's an absolute nightmare for Adeniji. Center has been a weak spot. Their entire interior offensive line is a bottom 5 graded unit, and they like to move him around as well. There's also this about Donald, and I don't think this goes unconsidered by the Rams. The one piece, the one Ram that has been there since the beginning, since these guys sucked. Like, think back to Jeff Fisher and like how brutal it was for the Rams, was Aaron Donald. This guy deserves. And so when you think about the narrative, when you go, Matt Stafford, coming from Detroit, never won a playoff game before, like, what a great story. Back up just for a second. Aaron Donald's story is also awesome. And when he torches that interior offensive line, like, I'm not expecting Zach Taylor to have some super creative way to keep Aaron Donald at bay. I'm sorry, I don't. And the combination of that, Joe Burrow taking sacks, and the narrative around it is, I think, why Donald is the guy that I would bet at 16-1. I love Jalen Ramsey. I want to bet him at 80-1. I think that the result, it's so hard for people to identify when a corner plays really well. Like, I actually think T. Higgins overs are really interesting in this game. Like, I expect Ramsey and Chase to have one hell of a battle. And while I love Jalen Ramsey potentially being a huge and very important and valuable player in this game, I don't think that the public will see that. So Donald is my favorite there. The tough thing for Kupp, Eric, is that if Kupp has a big game, like, the tie is going to go to Matt Stafford, right? Like, people are going to go like, oh, Matt Stafford was great, because, obviously Cooper Kupp played really well. And I have a hard time imagining that Stafford has enough turnovers to kind of get in the way of that.
Yeah, and I think, the Kupp thing is really where, but I agree with you on Donald. 16-1, you almost have to sprinkle that, especially if you're going to buy. Essentially, a Stafford bet for MVP is a Rams money line bet, but a bad Cooper Kupp. Like, couldn't you just? There's got to be some sort of like. There's got to be a plus EV play where you go Stafford. So like, instead of betting Rams money line, right? Like, and I got to think through this a little bit, but you go Stafford MVP, Kupp over 8.5 catches, Donald MVP, right? To me, like, we'd have to look at like what the implied odds of that are because they're correlated. But like, to me, that's less than minus 200, is it not?
I'd agree. I'd agree.
So like, I think that's probably where you should go. And we could probably look at one of the same game parlay calculators. I don't know if they have MVP in one of the same game parlay calculators, but it's exact like this. These are the kind of things that you have to be thinking about when you are going to bet the Super Bowl, right? Because, like, somebody, it's interesting, and like, back me up if I'm wrong, as somebody who made kind of a killing on the 2 All-Star games this week. Somebody was like, oh, don't bet the Pro Bowl. Don't just make a sprinkle. It's like, I got news for you guys. If you're a normal bettor, you have a better chance of winning on the Pro Bowl than you do the Super Bowl side and total. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. At some point, like, Pinnacle's taking $1 million bets on this game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Chris is taking, like, you have a better chance of like adding up the PFF grades of all the players in the AFC and the NFC, and like, or betting the under in the Pro Bowl than you do after a weekend, right? Like, if you got ahead and got under, like we did, and all that kind of stuff, fine. But to win money at the Super Bowl, you're almost ignoring the side and total at this point, right? Like, if you didn't get in at the very beginning, this number is beaten to hell. It's going to move a few cents here and there towards the end of the game, but that's over, Johnny. Like you have to sort of find other ways to bet the things you like.
Why we're doing all the research we can on all the other props. Look, last year, remember for the national anthem, someone recorded it outside, and then the line went to we told everyone to take the over.
We won't reveal our source.
Yeah, won't reveal our source there. But
by the way, for the field goal prop, because I do feel like kind of the two men in the last since week 16 have gone over 47.5 as the longest field goal twice. And that was McPherson against Tennessee, McPherson against Kansas City. Matt Gay has not hit a field goal over 47.5 yards since week 15. And McPherson had just done it the 2 times since then. So that's really where, if you're looking at kind of the reason for that bet, the season long numbers, actually, I think it's more like break even, but just to kind of like back that up. I know there was some, George, you realize that people like comment when I get the math wrong in this podcast. So
important. They need to hold you accountable. All right. That was our Sunday podcast. Next time we podcast will be on Radio Row. You and I together back in action. Super Bowl. Thanks for hanging out. We love you all. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Peace.